talked about as first-round picks, namely Ted McMillan and Matthew Golden. This guy's on the board, maybe. Like, he's got a much better chance of being available to the Bills. Would they draft a receiver? It would be, it would take some nerve to do it, but isn't that like irrelevant, as we talked about earlier? Shouldn't it just be about what do you need relative to the strengths and weaknesses of the draft class, depending on where you think the cutoff is at receiver? I think there have been 4 that have been in the first round much of the time, if not most of the time here this offseason, and everything else feels forced to me. Jaden Higgins, Jalen Royals, Trey Harris, these guys that are sort of like nothing against them or the analysts I'm speaking of, but seem like just sort of a little bit niche, like just, by the way, there's a guy at Utah State. This guy at Missouri was an absolute elite prospect, immediate difference maker in college. His team wasn't good. They say like he didn't really evolve as a player, but in terms of tools, he's got it. And then your organization and coaches do the rest. So I don't know. Maybe he's even possible at 56 if people are down on him for whatever off-field reasons they might have. I'm kind of excited about him. And I'm enjoying it because I haven't really been excited about anybody. There's another new corner on one of the PFF mocks today. The guy we talked about for a day.
The East Carolina guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his story again?
He had torn ACL early in the season. Okay. But I like that idea plenty. I mean his athletic. He's 6'2", long arms. He's long, Mike. I think that works. If you trust that he's healthy, and I would assume that they're doing their work on that. So like of the corner ideas, I like that. And it seems like the Bills, and I don't know, maybe all the teams in the league are doing this, but they have met with, and I don't have a list. I should be keeping a database, but they've met with 3, 4, 5 guys who had injuries. There's a Notre Dame corner, Morrison, who they, I think, had in for a 30 visit or met. They've been tied to him, and that's another guy that was really good but had an injury and wasn't, just so he's being pushed down. Where where the Bills are picking, it feels to me like maybe if either of those guys were healthy, they wouldn't see 30 or 56 even, maybe, but. Because they were dinged, maybe, and you can get them at a value, and if you hit that and they stay healthy, then you've done a really good job. So I'm all right with that idea too. Not that I want them to exclusively, be drafting guys who are coming off torn ACLs, but I think you can do well there if you're not scared of that.
Yeah, feels like sort of like it's Halloween. These corners and defensive linemen, and you go to a house and you get whatever, some sort of hard candy. Like it counts. It's in the bag. It helps fill the bag up. Right. You're not really excited about it at all. Whereas I'm trying to think of the right, food example for a guy like this, where it could be amazing, but you don't know. You get a giant Reese cup or Three Musketeers or something, it's going to be good. Like, you can't know here in this, absolutely jammed down your throat example, this metaphor. But something where, like, it could be amazing, maybe it's rotten.
You definitely don't want that.
What is Beane's footing with the Bills, as you see it, with the fans, like, overall? Is he fine? Is this draft maybe really important for him? I don't know. I mean, the Sabres don't make changes. So I can't even think seriously about the Bills making changes.
Riding 5 straight division titles.
Right.
I do feel like this offseason, I've had to remind people that I believe it's McDermott's show entirely, even though, the traditional hierarchy and the structure puts, the GM above coach. But I don't think that this exactly works that way, and I think there are a lot of examples in the NFL of that. It's more and more common, I think, that the coach is sort of like he's the CEO, and everyone else just sort of fills in around him. But I've heard more direct, pointed criticism of Beane, because of Kincaid not smashing and having a tough second year, and Coleman, and anything else you want here. Elam really is a big one. Talk about things you should be scared of doing because how it's going to look. I mean, drafting a corner in 2025 after trading away Elam for spare parts is not going to look good. I mean, you're doing that because you missed on him. And so that has created the need. And so, the idea of not picking someone because of how it looks, recognizing that it's not 3 in a row like it would be at receiver, like we're talking last segment with Kincaid and then Coleman and now a third guy if they were to go that route. But if Beane is worried about how he looks, drafting a corner at 30 is gonna shine a light on the miss on Elam from 4 years ago. I think.
Well, I know how you can avoid that.
Don't do it.
Draft Luther Burden.
Right. But your question is, what's his footing like? Like how? I think he's taking more shots than normal, but I don't think anyone at all over there is in any trouble ever with anything. They got Allen right. And, the critics of both guys will want to tell you that was just luck and that the misses aren't luck. It's good luck that you drafted Allen, but it's not bad luck. You're just terrible at your job because you drafted Kyrie Elam, which really doesn't jive with me. That should work both ways. There is luck on both sides, and it just didn't go your way. In the case of Elam, he was perfectly finely thought of as a prospect to be drafted where the Bills drafted him. I think it just didn't work. And I don't know where the blame lies entirely in that, but they missed. I just don't ever really like dinging them for hits. If you're going to ding them for misses, you should credit them for hits, or you should just do none of it. But where does that leave you?
I don't know where it leaves us, because then we're just talking hockey all the time.
Right.
I think that's fair. I think the best. It wasn't like it was in question at the time, but the best thing about drafting Allen, maybe, is that you were willing to draft a quarterback there. Like, that was the plan. And a lot of those Bills years came and went where they just wouldn't. They didn't have a good quarterback, and they still wouldn't pick one because they had to have that run stuffer. They had to have that linebacker. They had to have whatever it was, that corner. And you were just almost definitely going nowhere. So many teams still like this. The Steelers. The Steelers make the playoffs every year, and they're insufferable, and they're doomed. Like, what is that existence? And the Bills were below that. They couldn't make the playoffs at all, and they were doomed. So, yeah, I mean, Allen, of course, hit, to say the very, very least, but the starting point is they were willing to do it. And that was different from even the year before where they could have done
it. Even willing to do it, and they maneuvered themselves quite aggressively to make it happen. Like, they planned for it. Like Sal said it the day after the 17 draft when they didn't take Mahomes, and they made the trade to move down and let the Chiefs take Mahomes, and they got Tre'Davious White. Sal said, they got paid for that, and they're going to use these assets to go get their guy next year. And that's exactly what they ended up doing. I mean, they moved up twice to make that happen. And so, they executed a plan, and, they picked the right guy, and it worked.
Cordy Glenn does not get enough credit for all of this.
Right, started the whole thing off.
He should be leading the charge next year for sure, that guy. Without him.
That got them 21. I think that got them to 21, and from there they moved up, I think.
7?
Is that right? I think that's right.
I want to say they started at 21 because they were wild card, and they moved up from there.
All right.
And then to 7.
Maybe to 12. I've got 12 in my head for some reason, too.
Maybe.
All right.
I feel like 21 would be about
that
9 and
sense.
7, last team in the playoffs. Be 21. Here's David with us. Hi, David.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not much, just hanging out doing a radio show. How are you?
Work. Very nice. I just wanted to comment on the Beane stuff. I mean, I think the Beane criticism this offseason and last offseason feels kind of unwarranted. You flip Benford and Elam, we're all saying that's a home run of a draft. He took a lot of other great players that draft. Kincaid and Coleman, both guys who are fighting through injuries. I think Beane's been very sharp. I think his draft class has been really good. I'll hang up and listen, but I have full confidence in that guy.
All right.
I don't like flip Benford and Elam. Like, I mean, they did their work, and they had a I don't know what grade they had on Benford, but I'm sure it wasn't a first-round grade. They picked them in the 6th round. So, good. You did your homework, and you hit on a guy late, and that's to your credit. But that doesn't absolve you of missing. You missed on the other pick. That's it. It's a miss. Benford hitting doesn't wash that away. Like, good players getting drafted in, like Matt Milano, who predates Beane. That was McDermott and Whaley, for what it's worth, right? The first year, that same 17 draft we were just talking about. It's the same thing. Like, it makes up for it. It gives you a great player that was worthy of an extension that you can count on, but it doesn't wash away the miss. The miss is still a miss.
I guess. I mean, I think I agree. Interesting to think that, like, so Elam is kind of an F, right? Like, they wouldn't put him on the field. They didn't trust him. Then they needed him right down to the playoff loss, and he just couldn't get the job done. And Benford's an A. If Elam is a C, does Benford ever play? Like, does he ever sort of get the chance to show what he's capable of? I think you'd like to think that he would, that he's showing in practice, or maybe there's an injury, right? Like, just sort of he would eventually be found. But I don't know. I mean, that's a different deal. The pressure that teams feel to play their draft picks. Because listen to us every day.
Yeah.
This is like your draft picks define you as a GM almost more than your record does. This is what you're expected to be good at, finding the good players and bringing them on and making it work. And if Elam is average, does Benford even ever get a chance to do anything? I don't know. But he was bad. And so they needed, I mean, it's not exactly linear. I mean, there were other players involved, and it's maybe likely that Benford is Benford, but it's not a sure thing. It's different if your first-round pick is good enough to stay on the field but not great.
It can happen that a guy would be blocked that way. You'd like to think that over the course of time here, maybe it doesn't happen that first season as quickly as it does, but by the second season, we got to find a way to get this guy on the field. Maybe they divest themselves of Tre'Davious White sooner or something, like whatever. But it's not a given. Because I'm sure that's how guys, get somewhere else on a second team and a fresh start, and it works.
Right. 803-0550, Hockey at 4 with Luke Fox from Sports.